Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Scrappy Tails. Now, you should have earlier seen the reveal that I did of the two recent releases that Sabrina has had. And now we're going to get into our first project. So for my first project, both of the projects that I did are going to be making a book. I had to really work with this. So this one's going to be a little bit more comical than the other one because I was learning through this process. So I made this book an A2 size book. So when I'm giving the measurements, you want to make sure that, like on the dark blue pages, you're not measuring the two spine pieces. So that's going to measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, not including those 2 1/2-inch marks for the spine. All right, so just make sure you're realizing that. You got to really keep that in mind. Now, when you're creating the accordion, and that's what I'm going to refer to it as, the accordion frame that goes inside these two pieces, you're then going to cut those to be that same size. Now, what I did was, since my front of my book, again, not including the spine, is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, I cut these strips, 2 of them, to be 4 inches. And when you're cutting, you want to make sure you can still create your accordion. So you're going to cut down those and across those score lines. So I have 2 cut at 4 inches, and I have 2 cut at 5 1/4. Again, standard A2 size is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So my accordion frame is going to measure from end to end 4 inches by 5 1/4. I wanted to have that little bit of border going around on the inside to make it look like the book pages are set in, if that makes sense. Now, please know that I will link to the 2 videos that Sabrina has done for this book as well, because I know she makes it look so much easier than I do. But you want to make sure that when you're doing your accordion like I'm doing, you're going back and forth. Don't keep rolling it on itself. There's a reason why I'm saying that. You want to make sure that you're creating, it's like a filter in an air conditioning. Those side pieces, that's what you're creating, this hill and valley. It's like a bunch of V's and triangles and everything else going along each other. Now I'm going to put my front and the back of the book together. So when I'm connecting those at the spine, remember, we're not measuring that spine. Now, I don't have 1/2 inch tape, so I'm using my 1/4 of an inch and an 1/8 of an inch and just filling that in. Now, what I did was, for this one, you're going to see I move a little bit differently in the second video that's going to come out tomorrow. So it is easier if you use lighter paper because you can see your score lines. What I found is you can make your bends, but I find it's easier if I don't bend it, if I don't score those lines. Again, that's just me. And then I can bend them together, and they fall right in together. They go right up, because remember, when we add these 2 pieces, you don't want to go over that score line. You want to come right up against it with the edge of your cardstock, and it just goes together beautifully. Then create your scores in that spine, and that's what gives you that rounded spine look, because of that one crease right in the center at the 1/2 inch mark on that 1 inch spine. I have found the reversible tweezers are my friend. You know, I was watching Sabrina do this, and boy, you know, she somehow had this third hand, and we just didn't see it. Getting these pieces together, and they fit very firmly together, but those tweezers are awesome. They're by Spellbinders. And they've got this great point, and I'm able to get right in there to hold those pieces together. And then once they're together, then I can come in with just a small piece of my 1/4 inch tape. And I come in on the one side, I flip that other end down, and then I'm going to cut another piece. I even found a quicker way to cut the pieces. Yes, as you keep, again, practice. As we practice, we get better at things. It's amazing. So I have the one corner together. Now, what I found when it came to the putting these together, you can see I have the ends coming into each other. And what I mean by that is, you see the edge of the paper. See how it's coming down onto the inside of my frame. So you always want to match those up. You don't want those open ends facing away from each other. Bring those to each other. And I always show this whole process of putting that book together. Again, those tweezers, they were just a lifesaver. And you can see I go right into the center. I leave those two ends alone so that I can flip out those two ends, the two edges, so that I can have them both up, put my tape down, flip down the one side, put my tape down again on the other end, and flip that side down as well. So I really started picking up a rhythm. This one took me a little bit longer when I first did it, because this is the first book. So I was really just trying different things and saying, okay, how did she do this? I found wiggling them to make sure they really get into that corner. I mean, you can see the whites of my finger here. To really get into those corners, if you wiggle that cardstock back and forth, it'll just push itself right up into each other. And it really gets nice and snug. So you'll actually feel it. And there I go again. So I'm going to, again, offset them. I'm wiggling that. I don't want to go back and forth in this last corner because the other ones are together. So I just kind of shimmy it together. Just really, it just snaps. And just gets really, really tight. It does not hold on its own. Learn from me. I'm just saying. Those tweezers, any tweezers, they have to be reversible ones. Maybe a little clamp, a bulldog clamp. That would work as well. But you also don't want to damage your paper. Now, the paper that I am using is by Stampin' Up. So I'm not quite sure what the weight of their paper is. I want to say it's like an 80, 85 pound. It does not feel like 100, 110 pound paper to me. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm sure if somebody knows, let that comment down below. But I found this paper to be really great. Yes, see, I love those tweezers. To be really great and really strong. I also, when I was practicing and playing around off camera, I had also used the Recollections 65 pound paper, and that worked very well also. So either one, if you do have the Recollections, it works great. Absolutely. I would go, though, I think the Recollection 65 pound would be great for the frame accordion, but I would use a heavier weight for the outside cover. Because it's really, because I'm making my frame smaller, Sabrina made her frame the same size as what that front is. She kept it even. I'm bringing it in a little bit. So, I mean, you've got some, you're going to have some weight that's going on here. So it may just tilt a little bit. Having that stronger weight, 100 pound front, would be really good because it'll hold up and stand up a lot better. So just a little tidbit there. So now I'm flipping this all around, trying to find what's comfortable for me to get this frame down, because I am using tape. Now you'll find in my second video, I use glue when I put this down, and it worked beautifully. You want a fast grabbing glue though. So art glitter glue or Barely Art. They are fast grabbing. At least I think they're the fastest grabbing. All right, so that is our book. And you can see that edge. You can see I pushed it down just a little bit more towards the bottom again, so that, that weight can be balanced out. So let's look at our images that are going to go inside. Now, I did not show all of the coloring on this because these videos are going to be pretty lengthy. So I grabbed a piece of my Strathmore Mixed Media Toned Gray, and I'm using my Simon Says Intense Black. Now, I've always said this, if you've seen my previous video, it is called Intense Black. I don't think it's that intense. I think it is a beautiful black because it's like a dark charcoal when you use colored pencils, if you want that black outline. I don't like a deep, thick, rich, intense black outline when I do my colored pencil work. I want it to be just a little bit soft if I do have that line there. So this image to me is absolutely gorgeous. Her hair, the way it's braided, those flowers in it, the wings coming off, they are just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm grabbing my Prismacolors, and I'm just not doing any fancy coloring here. As I said, I'm not showing the whole thing. I'm just coming in and adding, I'm working with two tones, laying down my base tone, and then I'm coming in and literally flicking this dark brown going across. Now, I'm going to real quick talk through the wings because, of course, I didn't show all of this, and I really should have shown what I did with the rings because I kind of did something and I didn't know it was going to do this. So I colored the girl. I did her hair, her flowers, her, I think I did her neck. Did I do her neck? Yes. Okay. So I did her neck. I forgot. I had to look at my piece again. And then I did her shirt or what's on her in like a magenta, a dark magenta color. Now, again, I didn't have it solid and I only used one color. So I very lightly went with the dark magenta and then I went darker at the top to give a shadow and then coming down her shoulders. What I did with the wings then, I came in with white. All right, my white Prismacolor. So I went over the black lines. I went in through this whole section. I even went over the shoulders where the magenta was. So remember, a white colored pencil will blend your colors out. So it actually made this magenta, it made it look like the wings were see-through. So you had this fogginess going through it. Now, I wanted the wings shiny. Okay, I didn't want to put a piece of vellum over them. So I came in with my Ranger Emboss It pen, and it was the brush nib. And I went all over the white. I added a little bit of this very pale blue that you'll see me use in around her face, down her neck. I used that at the top of the wings. And I went over with this Emboss It pen completely just over the wings. And then I grabbed my clear embossing powder. And it really made these wings interesting. Because that Emboss It pen, it kind of will go through the wax of the Prismacolor pencil. Now, it didn't move the magenta, but it certainly made it brighter. But it made it look like I was looking through glass. So I'll try to do that in another video. And that's what it looks like. There's the pen that I used. And that's what it did. It looks really cool. And the white didn't go solid. I did fussy cut that image out. And I left a tab coming off the bottom. So I've used also, so that stamp set that I used is the Fairy Girl. And I'm using the A2 Cloud Plate die. So I've cut a couple of the cloud borders. And I also cut it in vellum. And then I cut a bunch of the clouds. Now you can also do layering clouds. I just wanted to come around my clouds with my oxide tumbled glass. And I'm using a finger dauber to do that. And as you can see, yes, I'm working on my glass mat. It's my new found friend, loving it. And having one of those things, I found it in the grocery store. I don't know what they're called. I think they're called grippets. The pads will not move your ink pad. So it is awesome. So now I'm just going to continue to ink. And it took me a while to remember to grab that pad. I'm just saying. As you saw. You know, we really get into our crafting and we forget what works. I cracked myself up, I think. So going around the edges. Now, for the one on the inside, I went lightly around the outer edge. I went heavier on the inside. I'm also going to have one of these for the outside of the book. And I'm also going to keep that centerpiece, you can see that off to the side there, to the right. I'm also keeping that too because I'm going to ink blend that with the tumbled glass and one of my makeup brushes across that as well. So I have this kind of deeper sky. I didn't want to put it on the inside of the book because I really wanted her to stand out. I wanted her to be in the sea of white clouds. Now, you could have done gray clouds. I'm sure it would have looked fine with this blue background, but I think she would have gotten washed out a little bit. I think I would have lost her definition of those lines if I did that. And you can see this is like a puzzle. So this just, you know, fits right in there. So that's why I didn't put her in. I kept that deep, rich blue in that background. Remember, this stamp set that I'm about to use, A Midsummer's Night Dream, William Shakespeare, this is, that stamp set that I'm about to use is a incentive, one of the incentives, if it's still available. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if you spend over $75 at the Scrappy Tails shop, you will get that stamp set, again, if it's still available. And then there is another incentive. It's the moon die with the star. So remember, go back into the reveal so that you can see that. You'll actually see that in the second video. Now, if you spend over $125, you'll get that die and the stamp set if it's available. I keep saying that because, again, you know, supplies might be limited when it comes to our incentives. So that's how she's built that. So I've set this piece into my stamp positioning tool. It's not going to move because of the points. I lined it up against that. And I'm using my pumice stone oxide to stamp this image. I didn't want that bold black to come out. I didn't want a metallic embossing powder. I wanted this soft image. I love these branches that sit around this sentiment. I love the sentiment. I am a huge fan of A Midsummer's Night Dream play. It is my favorite. So just using my oxide and then putting my clear embossing powder on top of that, it really makes this come out. Now, if you saw, I dried that panel first because remember, our oxides are a dye and pigment ink mixture. And because you have that pigment ink mixture, it's going to take longer to dry. Now, of course, I didn't dry it long enough, so I did get some clear embossing powder everywhere, but I was okay with that. And I kind of knew that was going to happen. So I just kind of continued to go with it. So now I've got all my pieces set up. Now we're going to have fun just building this. This is ingenious. The accordion. You can create all of these layers. You can create this beautiful shadow box style card and have all of this dimension and texture and layers, and you don't have to go through your fun foam and your double-sided tape. So this is just great just by setting these pieces off to the side. Now I will suggest again, the way that I look at this as a shadow box, you know, to have pieces off the side, have pieces, you know, peeking out. So again, having different focal points in the center and having all of these elements come out into it, definitely use your heavier cardstocks for that because they'll hold up. This is going to be, everything we do is a piece of art. Everything. By all means. But this, you know, this just has more time, you know, not that one art's more fancier than the other, but this is an item, you know, we never know if our cards are kept when we give them to somebody. This is definitely going to be an item I believe that someone would definitely keep. To make one of the clouds shorter, I just trimmed off the side because I knew it was going through. And you can choose the layer in which you put it in. You have, and I'm going to look at this here, you have the back layer, and then 1, 2, 3. You have 4 layers, and then the top. So there's really 5 layers that are going on. The definite back, the upper top, and 4 in between, I think. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5. Yes. So you have so many possibilities on this, and I just think it is absolutely awesome. So here's the vellum piece that I cut, and what I did was I took that frame, cut it out in the corners, and just made the shorter pieces, and then they just filled in along the sides. Okay, and now I'm looking at her because I trimmed off that bottom because she is just going to be that centerpiece, and she fits snugly in there. I mean, I didn't really have to add any glue, but I did just to make sure that she stays in there. You can lift these sides up because to get her in there, you're just going to push right back down on it, and it's going to put it all back in place. I'm going to put the final cloud layer around her as well. You don't have to. You could leave that blue frame or put a different kind of cardstock around that. Totally your choice, but I really wanted her engulfed within all of that white, and I think that just makes her pop out. So looking at our outside, again, this is an A2 frame die. So again, my book cover is just a little bit bigger than that when it comes to that. And I will confirm the measurements on my book, and I will make sure that they are either listed down below, probably in my blog post. I will make sure that I have those listed. So, because again, I was really playing around with the dimensions of this. Okay, so my book cover is 4.5 by 5 3/4. So I added 1/4 of an inch to the book panels. And again, we don't measure those two spines. So when you cut this down, you want to make sure that you're going out to 4.5 from the first score line, and then you're going to 5 3/4 from bottom to top. All right, and then those center pieces, the accordions, are 1/4 of an inch shorter. So the side to sides are 4 1/4, and the top to bottoms are 5.5, which will give you that regular size. Okay, and I just noticed that because I saw when I put that on there. So I apologize. I will make sure the sizes are listed down below or in my blog post. So make sure you check that out. So see, I told you it would be entertaining and confusing at the same time. Again, I will be linking to her 2 videos that she did using this die. As I said, she makes it look so much easier. Make sure you check those out. Make sure you go to her site, check out all of the wonderful products that she has available if you choose, but I will have her shop listed down below. So I do hope this helped if you do have this die set already or were on the fence about it. Maybe I gave you some tips and tricks. I'll actually be able to give more in the next one. Yeah, because I was getting better as I kept on going with it. It was very addicting. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure you leave those down below. I always encourage Sabrina to make sure, or whoever I'm showcasing for, keep an eye on those comments. I'm sure they will answer just a little bit quicker than I will. But I will get back to you and answer your questions as soon as I can. Enjoy your day. I can't say that enough. Continue to smile. And if you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe, be part of my group here, and make sure you ring the bell. Not that that helps, but hey, here's hoping, right? Take care, everyone, but always remember what's most important to me. Always be creative. Until the next video, guys, take care.